All right, everyone. Looks like we're just at the top of the hour. I'm sure we'll see some more trickle in here, but we'll just go ahead and get started for time's sake. So thanks for hopping on. My name is Troy Daniels. I'm going to be talking today. We also have Madeline from Soligent. She will be presenting some material at the end, talking about Soligent, who is our co-sponsor of this training and one of our distribution partners. So today we're going to be doing a little bit mostly about the overview and then moving on to the AmpliPHI battery, our newest battery line. So we're going to talk a little bit about products we have that you might already know. And we're also going to be talking about tools and solutions that we have for new installers that might be interested in getting into batteries and might have never done anything related to batteries, just grid-tied solar. So with that being said, let's hop right in. So again, just to kind of give it a kickoff here, I'm just going to go a little bit regarding company overview, just talking about what we do here at SimpliPhi Power. So safe, proven, and simple technology. Safe as is non-toxic, non-hazardous, cobalt-free batteries. This is really the building block of our technology, is to use safe chemistry when it comes to lithium chemistry that does not pose a risk of thermal runaway. Compared to other lithium batteries, definitely cobalt-based batteries you're going to find that do have that risk. As far as certifications go, 1642 on the cells. These are UL certifications, 1973 on the battery itself, and some 9540A system level stuff. I won't bore you too much with the UN DOT stuff, but also notice that we are SGIP approved. So if you are in California, it's a great program to take care of or to take advantage of. And we do have that SGIP approval. Real quick, a little bit of housekeeping I forgot. Now that we have more people in, we can mention it. If you have any questions during the presentation, if you go up to that black control bar, there's a Q&A section there. Go ahead and just type your questions into the Q&A throughout the presentation, and we will be sure to get to them at the end. Okay, proven technology. Over a decade of experience and growth, deployed in over 40 countries and over 100 megawatt hours installed worldwide. We've been tested and validated by the U.S. Army and Marine Corps. We even have special permission to fly from the FAA, kind of proving the sake of our clean, safe battery technology. We're actually manufactured in the United States. We do our own manufacturing here in the United States. These are not white labeled batteries. Simple technology, we are always trying to make it as easy as possible to integrate or optimize any generation source, whether that's grid, generator, solar, wind, whatever it may be, on and off grid with all of our products. Maximize resiliency and energy security, as well as take advantage of different functions, especially when we're talking about the grid tied world, things like time of use, peak load shaving, demand charging management. All these things are becoming more and more common, and definitely are things that we try to make as easy as possible with our products. So again, our kind of main building block of our batteries are safe technology. That would be our lithium iron phosphate chemistry that we use with a cylindrical form factor. These are the kind of building blocks of all of our products and all of our batteries. Okay, so let's talk a little bit through the products you probably already know if you're familiar with our company. Before we kind of jump through I won't talk about the AmpliPHI during this section. We're going to talk about that in a broader section, the new battery. So the 3.8, still our most common popular battery. This is the standard Phi 3.8. So not the newest battery. This is the Phi battery. This is a little bit more simple. There's no communications to the inverter. It's just designed to be a really simple, easy to use battery. It comes in 24 and 48 volts, parallel connections. It's modular and scalable. There's actually no limit to how many you put into parallel. Comes with an integrated battery management system again, but this is more of an internal device. We have some smaller products to offer. Our 1.4 comes in 24 volts and 12 volts. So this can be scalable as well, but it's small and lightweight, even compared to our other batteries that are also fairly small for their kilowatt hour rating. These ones are 33 pounds. They're great for mobile applications. Compatible still with most of the standard charge controllers and inverters that we used on our other batteries and products. They do have an integrated battery management system still. If you can follow my mouse here, they actually come with a Anderson connector or bare wire. So no battery leads, which definitely, if you're looking at mobile application, this is going to make an easier solution when it comes to not having exposed cables. Oh. Some other little products we have are portable power emergency power packs. These are just all-in-one inverter charger, similar to something you bring camping, but also, you see these on emergency relief and things like that. Still lithium iron phosphate, still utilizing our manufacturing process to put it all together. Okay. As far as the realm of all-in-one products, the Express unit is our kind of smaller all-in-one. It's a little bit more user-friendly, I'd say, than maybe installer-friendly. When I say user, I mean like end user. It is mobile, and it's a NEMA 3R enclosure, so it's outdoor ready. DC quick connect inlet for charging from solar. You can actually plug PV right in and charge the batteries up that way and then disconnect it. It has an AC inlet for charging from the grid. It has 4 outlets and 2 USB ports. They're actually right here. That is for pulling power directly off the unit. So you can actually charge this up, let's say from the grid or whatever it may be, stow it away in the garage, and then pull it out when the power goes out. So this does not require a hard wire into a critical loads panel or the home's electrical system. So it is a little bit more on the user side of things, is pretty easy to use. The access solution, which we're going to talk about a little bit more in detail, the access is definitely wants to be wired into the home panel, the critical loads or the whatever you may be using it for if you're using whole home backup. This is inverter charger batteries, all built into this NEMA 3R enclosure. It can be DC or AC coupled. So if you have an existing PV array, this is a great solution just to add in a battery system without too much work. We'll talk a lot about this later, so I'll leave it kind of there, but we will go back to the access and the different types of access units. And very last, I'll talk about, we do also offer high voltage units. So these are for larger projects like microgrids or large scale backup, 40 volt 3-phase on the AC side of things. It's a bit different than our standard product. You can stack them in series, so 200 to 800 VDC nominal, and then from there you can parallel out those stacks to build up your energy storage. Comes with an external BMS, CAN bus, Modbus, and Ethernet ready. If you're interested in this, I would definitely reach out to us. It's a little bit, it's kind of a as-built type basis, so each project is pretty unique. So definitely reach out to your distribution partner or us just to talk through the project. Okay, so as far as it goes with, if you're installing PV already, maybe you want to get into the battery world, we offer the access solution we just talked about. This is an energy storage solution system that we really are trying to make things a little easier on everybody. Pre-wired internally, arriving on site like that, the batteries are the only thing that arrive really that you need to connect internally into the unit. Other than that, you're just running AC wires for the most part, or DC if you're going DC coupled. They come in 2 different main kinds of the different flavors, I guess you could call them at this point. We've kind of pared down. So now it is the Schneider access and the Solarc access. So to talk about the Schneider first, this one is just using Schneider components. It comes with the XW Pro. That's the inverter charger built into it. It comes AC coupled standard. If you were to want a DC coupled option, you can see here this big charge controller here. That's the 600 volt charge controller, which is great because it has a little bit larger strings. So you can add that option if you want to go DC coupled and get that charge controller added. If you buy it as is without the charge controller, you can still add an AC coupled array. So if you've got a grid tied array on the roof already, you can just run it right into this unit and then run that to a critical loads panel. Now you have backup power built in. As far as monitoring goes on this unit, it's pretty straightforward. It's just using the Schneider. Actually, this is now not the COM box. This is the gateway. Still same platform, the Insight platform though. Just showing, real-time data of what's going on in the system, historical monitoring, which can be really helpful when it comes to maybe adjusting how the system is being used, definitely when it comes to rate structures and things like that, but also it can help with troubleshooting too if there's ever any sort of discrepancy. The other type of access unit we have is the SolArc access. This comes with the 12 kW or kW SolArc. This is a pretty large inverter, has a charge controller built in. So that means that no matter how you order this unit, it's AC or it's DC coupled. This unit's actually really, really cool because when AC coupled with the Schneider unit, you really can't take as much advantage of true things like time of use, true time of use, and self-consumption when the grid's not or the grid's present. This unit can do those functions a lot better. So we can actually utilize the TOU when AC coupled. It also has rapid shutdown capabilities built in, meaning that we can add a button in and get that rapid shutdown on a battery level too, which is becoming more and more of a thing you're going to see as jurisdictions kind of shift and start to adopt more and more of that rapid shutdown on a battery level. And we'll talk about our AmpliPHI here coming up in the next couple slides. But just know that and we'll talk more about this, the AmpliPHI can be added in, this is our new battery, can be added into the SolArc access unit now. This is really as far as advanced communications with the SolArc, as well as, we have some really, really high level accurate state of charge readings and just readings in general, which again, we'll talk about that here coming up when I get into the AmpliPHI. Okay, wiring or monitoring on the SolArc access. The only thing to keep in mind is, again, if you're using the AmpliPHI or new batteries, this monitoring is going to be insanely accurate as far as the battery percentage goes, because the battery is actually what's reporting that. But, real-time monitoring, historical monitoring, and actually remote programming with this. Okay, so on that note, the AmpliPHI battery. This is our newest addition to our battery line. And let's jump right in. So basic specifications. Still a 48 volt battery. It actually doesn't come in 24 volt, this one. It's just 48 volt right now. But it is still a 3.8 kilowatt hour building blocks. As far as paralleling this battery, something to keep in mind, currently there's a limit, 30 batteries in parallel. And that's just due to communication cables. UL certification, 1973 already. We're working towards 9540A with some different products that we have, definitely with the access solution with the SolArc. Max discharge is a little bit higher. So the standard Phi battery can do 60 amps at 10 minutes per battery. This one can actually do 100 amps at 10 minutes per battery. So it has a little bit larger breaker as well. There's a 100 amp breaker on it. Continuous discharge and charge is still the same, 37.5, though, and the temperature range is still the same, though we'll talk a lot about why the communications really adds this layer of protection and understanding to those different kind of parameters. Dimension-wise, it's the exact same as the 3.8 standard as far as dimensions go, which means it can fit in the wall brackets that we already have and the existing cabinets and energy storage solutions we have. It is slightly heavier. It's actually a metal enclosure now, or case. Okay, so why is this battery really different? Closed loop communications with the inverter. Built into the battery management system, meaning that we can directly communicate from the battery to the inverter charger. And the entire system for that matter, if everything's connected together. So right now it's just advanced integration with the Solarc inverters. We are adding more inverters on very shortly here. I just was discussing this recently. So more on the horizon, definitely, I would say by next year, you'll see some more inverters added to that list of inverters that we specifically have that comms capability with. For this case, we'll just talk about the Solarc because that's the one we started with. So what does it do when it communicates with the Solarc? It auto-populates set points. It offers a extremely high level of protection, which we'll talk about on the next slide. Very high level accurate readings, which I just talked about, whether it's state of charge, the voltage of the batteries, and charge and discharge. So seeing amps flow in and out. Again, the battery is what's reporting that directly to the inverter. So it's very, very accurate. It also allows for flexible sizing. So if you're familiar with our batteries, you know that we have a very strict sizing guide when it comes to our standard Phi batteries, meaning there's a very there's a very easy to follow minimum battery quantity per inverter. When connecting this to an inverter that it communicates with, so again, right now that's the Solarc, you can actually size pretty small compared to the inverter's output. So you can have one AmpliPHI battery on a 12 kilowatt Solarc inverter. The reason for that is the protection that's built into it, which again, we'll jump into right now. So protection wise, over voltage protection is built into it, and that would be at 60 VDC. This is the BMS now is analog and digital. So it has a lot of capabilities as far as hard disconnects and digital disconnects. So overcharge and discharge protection. So 37.5 amps DC per battery. Again, with the sizing in the past, we've often said, hey, you need to have double the kilowatt capacity in kilowatt hours. So if you've got an 8 kilowatt inverter, you need 16 kilowatt hours of battery. Not the case with the AmpliPHI battery. It automatically recognizes how many batteries are in the system and will report a max discharge to the inverter. It'll say, hey, I can only discharge this much, and the Solarc inverter will listen and make sure that there is no over discharge. So if you wanted to have one of these AmpliPHIs on a large inverter like the 12K Solarc, you can definitely do that. I see a lot of questions coming through. Okay, it's just one person. Okay, got it. I just want to make sure I'm not missing something here. All right. Now, temperature protection specifications, low and high. Again, it's very similar as far as what we have is the temperature range is still the same. But the great news here is we actually have the ability to internally read the temperature, an internal thermostat where we can see if the temperature goes too low. We have the ability to say stop or don't charge at that low temperature to avoid damage to the battery. And if it goes too high, the same thing. It has some ability to automatically reset itself. So it's a bit confusing. I won't drive it out too much, but just know that in certain conditions that are outlined in the manual, it does have the ability to automatically reset the BMS. So if the temperature goes too low and it doesn't try to charge, or if it stays within that limit that we can keep it, we want to charge in, we can actually reset the BMS. If it goes too high, it can reset. Sometimes it does require a hard reset, meaning breaker needs to go on and off, reset the BMS. Automatic charging set points is a big one. We're auto-populating set points from the battery itself. It's simply telling the battery, hey, these are the set points I want. The battery is telling the inverter, these are the set points I want, and reporting right to the inverter. So for the most part, a lot of it's going to be auto-populated. I'll talk about that, I think, in a couple slides here, exactly what is auto-populated to the inverter charger and the system and what is not. And again, the BMS has this ability to truly disconnect and make sure that no damage happens, as well as relay to the inverter what not to do to prevent damage to the battery. Okay, as far as what's included with the battery, it's important to note, so if you bought our batteries before, we don't offer battery cables with our batteries. That would be something you get from your distribution partner. We do, however, with the AmpliPHI, offer the battery-to-battery Cat5 cables. So, think about like Ethernet line. 4 feet. One of those is going to come with each battery, as well as terminators and dust caps for the unused ports. I'm not going to go through the wiring on this one. Just check out our manual if you have any questions on wiring the communication lines. But just know that the dust caps and the terminators are used in these unused ports. You can see 3 ports on the battery for the comms lines. And it actually allows us to close off those ports either with the terminator where we're actually ending the comms loop, or just a dust cap to make sure there's no dust buildup or damage. So again, that comes with the battery in the box. Each battery box has one of those. What it does not necessarily come with is the Cat5 cable to the inverter itself. If your inverter is 4 feet away from the battery you want to connect to it, then technically it does. But really that's going to be a unique sizing requirement depending on how far your inverter is. So you may need one more Cat5 cable that you would have to purchase to get that from battery to inverter communication line. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about programming. Again, programming is really made easy by the battery management system. It auto-populates these set points to really try to help mitigate misprogramming set points. There are adjustable set points, but the BMS also at that point knows its own limits. So the battery management system will say, hey, you've set a set point that's too high for my limit or too low, whatever it may be, and it can revert back to the safer of the settings. That being said, though, again, you can actually still change the settings. And as long as it's within the parameters that we would deem acceptable with the battery, it will accept that change. So as far as what is auto-populated, all the charge settings are. The absorb voltage is auto-populated. We use end current when talking to the solar, meaning we do not have an absorb time. We have a specific end current calculated out to terminate that final stage of charging. If you're using DC coupled, the float automatically sets. EQ does set at a safe voltage, but disable. The battery management system, state of charge, and battery capacity. This is interesting. So simply by plugging in more batteries, so let's say you've got 3 batteries plugged into a solar of the AmpliPHI, the battery will automatically say, hey, this is how many batteries I have. This is my capacity. The management system will automatically tell the inverter that. Just by plugging in those batteries, they communicate with each other and they tell the solar that. If you add a 4th battery all of a sudden, it will recalculate that setting and it will say, hey, I've just got another battery in my system. Here's the new battery capacity. And on that same note, state of charge, the SOC is read from the battery, as I mentioned, and that is what's telling the inverter what the state of charge is. So it's very, very accurate. Max discharge, we talked about already. Again, the battery will say, hey, I've got 5 batteries in my system. This is the max discharge that I can possibly do. And it will keep in mind surge as well as continuous power. Temperature compensation, again, disabled, but it's automatically set by the battery, not by the installer. You don't actually have to do that point. What's non-populated settings? Low battery cutout technically is not populated. Now, this is done based off state of charge. And technically speaking, if you just plug in the battery will be able to discharge to 0% or 100% depth of discharge. So you do need, if you want to go for that 80% depth of discharge, you will just need to change that low battery cutout percentage to 80% depth of discharge or 20% SOC, I think is the actual setting. But if you did nothing at all, it still would be able to disconnect at the correct voltage that is not too low for the battery. Generator and grid charge boxes, battery doesn't mess with that stuff. That's on the installer to decide what sources beyond what's already in place it's going to use. The main one that you need to click as an installer is the BMS type. So you say BMS lithium battery type as the type of battery, and that will initiate that allowance on the solar to auto-populate the set points. Okay, so a little bit about what you can purchase as options, using the AmpliPHI battery. Apologize for the picture there. I must have swapped it out there, but that should be the AmpliPHI battery, the white case. There's a few options here. So you have the Solar 12K access, as I mentioned. So you can buy the access unit, the all-in-one outdoor rated access enclosure with the AmpliPHI batteries already put in. That comes as 6 batteries standard. You can always add more if you want. You can also just go with a simple install of putting a solar converter somewhere with SimpliPhi, the AmpliPHI batteries. This is typically going to be for like indoor rated jobs. Good news here is you can customize that a lot more to fit certain energy sizing and AC requirements by, you're not using a standard built out product. You're designing it a little bit more yourself. And something that's quickly becoming popular, we offer the Boss 6, which is what you see here. This is a 6 battery enclosure, NEMA 3R, or the Boss 12. That's the same size as about the Access solution. And that is a 12 battery enclosure. You can add those on so you can customize your energy storage a little bit more. And people are using those oftentimes with the new outdoor rated solar unit, which is also NEMA 3R. So you can have all of your stuff outside, but still have the ability to really customize the installation. Okay, awesome. We kind of flew through that, so we'll pump the brakes here and just go very slowly / briefly through our design tools. So SimpliPhi offers a lot of design, sales, and sizing tools that we have live on our website. These tools are really designed to benefit the installer, benefit the designer, and even benefit the customer in the end. So showing, easy ways through looking at cost analysis, battery sizing, and even going into the kind of granular detail that goes into design of the system itself. So our most basic calculator, I would say, is our SimpliPhi 3.8 battery bank calculator. This is just how we say, hey, you've got this amount of load per day the customer is looking to cover. I want to cover it for X amount of days. This is the battery voltage I want. And here's how many batteries you would need. You can mess around with the depth of discharge, and that's about it. It also kind of gives you a few values like amp hours and voltage out. It spits that out for you as well. But really basic, again, just based on the customer load consumption. So you will need to definitely, work through that load consumption first, but then you can simply just calculate out the battery quantity. Okay, this one's a little bit more advanced. This is our system-based Phi calculator. So we're still looking for quantity of batteries, but this one really takes into effect more about the installation itself. Whether it's AC coupled or DC coupled, what's the equipment you're using? What's the specific inverter? What's the charge controller? What's the battery? Is it a Solarc with an AmpliPHI? Well, then we don't have the same requirements. Is it a Phi battery? Yes, we would need to have certain sizing requirements for the equipment. It also takes in still effect to load calculations, things like that. I would definitely say give this one a whirl sometime. It has a ton of different factors that play into it that really are going to help make sure you're getting the exact right quantity of batteries based on your system design, not just your load consumption. One of my favorite tools, the lead acid battery bank replacement calculator. So if you are replacing a bank of lead acid batteries for any reason, you can just type in the exact values of what you're replacing. You know, you're looking at amp hours, at voltage ratings, at how many batteries, the depth of discharge the customer might have been using on that lead acid bank. And you're calculating out exactly what the Phi replacement would be. So it also has a really, really helpful guide. If you go to the page, I guess I could click it real quick to make sure this doesn't hopefully pop me out too far. Okay, there we go. So just FYI, if you're on this page, check out this download here too. If you are doing lead acid replacements, we have this entire guide that talks about everything from cost analysis and comparisons to reprogramming, and everything you might need to know about when it comes to lead acid replacements with our battery. Okay. The very last tool I'll talk about is our sales and cost comparison tool. This is our levelized cost of energy storage calculator, LCOES. So this calculator is designed to look at basically what you're looking at is ROI on a battery, on an energy, the total amount of energy you're going to get over the lifetime of a battery. You can actually see the calculations here. So we're looking beyond upfront costs. We're looking at what does the lifetime cost of the battery truly look like compared to other batteries. This can be a really helpful tool to show to customers that maybe are looking at a battery that is a little bit less expensive up front, but they're going to end up, you know, with a lower warranty, less of a lifespan, and definitely not as much energy throughput really is what you're looking at. So you can actually use this calculator to compare to other lithium batteries. You can type in your own cost per these batteries. So even our battery, you know, if you have a cost from Soligent, you say, hey, I know my cost from Soligent of the SimpliPhi battery is this, and the other battery I want to compare to is this. You can type those values in yourself. You can even compare to other types of batteries, not just lithium to lithium. Okay. So kind of last here, I want to talk about our installer qualification program. So this program is not a requirement. So this is our Elite IQ program. Let me see if that'll load. There we go. It's not a requirement to install our batteries, but it is really an added benefit for those that are already installing our batteries or want to get more involved and install our batteries. So requirement-wise, basically, you're going to fill out this application on this page. Just FYI, if you're looking for this page, is under support, IQ installer qualification. The application is here at the bottom. Very easy, about 10 minutes to fill out. Doesn't take long. Just asking for some really basic info. Requirements are to complete 3 trainings specifically. One that you need to actually attend, either webinar or in person, obviously not in person right now. That is the Battery 101. And then there's 2 other trainings that I require. You can either watch them on YouTube, and I'll tell you why it wouldn't matter if you lied about watching on YouTube, but either attend. We do those, you know, typically every couple months we'll have one of these 2. So you can either do that or you can watch on YouTube. You need to complete 2 SimpliPhi installs, and there's a place to put the pictures in the application, and complete an online exam, which again, if you didn't actually watch these, you might miss a lot of the questions on the exam. Basically, once you do that, you don't only just get this sweet little swag pack here of different merchandise with our name on it and use this actual logo on your website and whatnot, but the biggest benefit is you end up on our where to buy page. So for instance, Soligent's on our where to buy page. They're a distributor, so they're always going to be on our where to buy page. Now, the benefit of being an installer on here is if there's a homeowner looking at, hey, I really want to get a system installed. Well, if your name's here, they're going to, you know, they find that you're right in their area. We have a lot of traffic through our website. So if they find that, now they've just gone right to the source. So you're still buying batteries through the distribution partner, but the customer can skip, maybe talking to us or the distribution partner and just go to the installer and say, hey, I really, I see you're in my area. I see you know how to install the SimpliPhi batteries and you're trusted enough to be on this map. I'd love those batteries. So definitely an added benefit there to really boosting your business and your visibility on our website. So check out that program. If you've already installed 2 batteries, that's the hardest part to get done. It's the biggest part, I would say, actually. So just, apply through the application. It takes like 10 minutes. Okay, with that, I am going to go ahead and pass it off to Madeline here. And she's going to talk a little bit about Soligent. So one second. There you go, Madeline. You should have control now.
Appreciate it, Troy. Thank you so much. We do have I've been answering the questions from the Q&A sporadically. I left a few up so we can address those kind of later at the end of the session because I think that some are quite pertinent.
Perfect.
So I'm going to keep plugging along. So I kind of want to just take a few minutes to reiterate a few things that Troy had said that are particularly relevant to Soligent's installers. So if you see the amount of exposure SimpliPhi has had, SimpliPhi is a tried and true battery solution. And in this case, it's all across the United States and in the Caribbean and the world for that matter. So, we target a very large variety of installers, whether it's people who have really solid regular monthly installs that have forecasted demand through us, or if it's a do-it-yourselfer that's working on their first installation. Soligent really has the tools in order to support installers and projects of any scale. And SimpliPhi is a really good solution for that because the scalability makes it really easy to determine, do I want a pre-wired access or express unit, or do I think I'm going to go a little bit more build your own scalability with the Phi or the AmpliPHI battery options? So the amount of variety and options that SimpliPhi provides is really well suited to the Soligent installer. So for one specific project, I'm just going to look at a few projects that have been successful from SimpliPhi. Is you often want to think about when a customer is thinking about storage, what are their wants versus their needs? In the end of the day, you want to make sure that the customer experience is what they're expecting. And often when you're incorporating batteries in the conversation, it can be a little bit more challenging to set those expectations. So talking through kind of how are you looking for batteries for backup purposes, for resiliency? Are you looking for batteries to be cycled on a daily basis? Kind of starting with a different set of qualifying questions can really gear the storage discussion in the right direction. And in this example, this is a image of a tiny house, and all of these products are on the SimpliPhi website if you want to see more. So if you think about a tiny house may be sized different than a typical grid-tied normal house, if you will. So in this particular project, this tiny house is furnished with 3 of the 3.5 kilowatt hours, which was the predecessor to the 3.8. So I want to think about kind of the setting of the installation as well as the size of the installation. So at Soligent, we can definitely help you kind of come up with what are the best ways to qualify these projects by identifying what loads you're going to be backing up with batteries and how long you want to be backing up those loads. So the conversation would be a little bit different than if you were just adding solar, but definitely an easy way to kind of broach the discussion of batteries with your customer. Kind of shifting gears, this is an installation in San Diego. And if you can see, this is a DC coupled install. And you can tell this is DC coupled because here's the extension box, and this is a charge controller. So this is a Schneider installation with a Schneider charge controller to the left of the access unit. So that means that the PV is going to be directly tied to that charge controller, feeding the Schneider XW inverter. And in this case, there were 2 charge controllers used, with 10.2 kilowatt hours of batteries. So lots of different scale that we can be looking at between backup just for a short amount of time, trying to get you through the night, let's say, or if you're looking to really provide resiliency for the majority of your house's needs for a long period of time, we can really look at a breadth of battery bank sizes based on each home's needs. So SimpliPhi is really good in that regard. And then the last example I want to consider, and this is an off-grid installation in Wisconsin, and this is using 8 of the even further predecessor, which is the 3.4 kilowatt hours. And in this case, you can see in the picture that some are upright and some are on the side, so that the and Troy, of course, correct me if I'm wrong, the orientation of these units doesn't necessarily matter. So if you have a physically size constrained installation, you can orient the batteries in a way that's going to fit your physical needs. So that's really another good feature of the SimpliPhi battery. So this is kind of just an overview image of what the primary offering we're seeing most of our installers looking at, which would be either of the access units. And the first one on the right, this is going to be the access with Schneider. So Schneider inverters we've seen for a really long time. If you don't want a charge controller, you can DC couple. And then we have the standard black Phi battery, which our customers know and love, had really great experiences with. Now, moving into our next generation, we have our SolarArc 12 kilowatt inverter that is inherently AC and DC compatible with the white closed loop communication AmpliPHI option. So I think, again, I really just want to continue to harp on the fact that any installer with either the most experienced on or off-grid battery solutions can become really fluent with SimpliPhi's product. It's easy. The support that SimpliPhi provides to Soligent and the support that SimpliPhi provides to our customers is really, really strong. So we can help for anybody's first project. The scale is really nice. And I want to bring back again, Troy, to the scalability. With the Phi batteries, in parallel, you can add as many as you need. So we're not seeing any limitations there, which is really hugely valuable. Because people often say, I want to start with a couple batteries, and then later down the line, if I need a little extra duration of my battery bank, throw on another one. You can do that at any time. The BMS enables really the ultimate flexibility with these installations, which is hugely valuable. And then again, with any inverter, if you choose to do the closed loop communications, you have that integrated relationship between the AmpliPHI and the SolarArc. But if you say, I'm replacing a battery bank for an installation that's already completed, fine, you can work with an existing inverter to replace an old bank with your new Phi battery. Absolutely achievable. So really lots of flexibility there. Okay, Troy, this is the end of my portion, but I want to pull up the questions.
Yep,
so
absolutely. So
if you want to take the reins again, this will go to our contact, but I want to pull up for the AmpliPHI. I know with the Phi, we have the maximum is kind of anything you need to do in parallel. What's the maximum for the AmpliPHI?
Yeah, so the AmpliPHI is currently 30 batteries in parallel. It's going to be the max. That will likely change in the right direction, not lower direction. But we are working to make that a little larger. Great.
And I know that these NEMA 3R enclosures are available for the battery cabinets with the Boss and with the access cabinets. Is there any kind of implication or issues with a high ambient temperature tropical area like Florida or Southeast Asia? Like, how does it perform in kind of maritime climates?
Good question. Well, humidity, first and foremost, I get asked a lot about. Humidity is not really an issue if my kind of rule of thumb is there water dripping in the enclosure?
Sure.
If there is, it's too much.
Right.
Temperature wise, I mean, these batteries can go up to 120 on the charging side. So I've spent a lot of time in Puerto Rico with various installers out there with access solutions. and it's not an issue. I am sure there are climates, definitely probably thinking about Southeast Asia would probably be the exception to this, where you might genuinely see too hot of temperatures.
Okay.
But for the most part, United States wise, definitely, I've never seen an area that can truly, other than maybe Death Valley, that can truly reach that temperature. And it's internal temperature too, to keep in mind. It is the battery's cell temperature. So there is insulation between the battery and its enclosure.
Great. Good. There's a good question about expanding the access, because I know that the typical access units are enclosed, pre-wired, kind of set the way that you guys are manufacturing them. Is there any ability to expand more batteries with a separate enclosure for the access solar?
Yeah, actually, the boss cabinet's a great option for that. So you could always have, if you've got like, let's say 6 batteries on the Solarc, you could actually at that point add another boss cabinet with 6 batteries. So you can actually scale up your storage. You can't parallel the actual access side by side. If you want to go that direction, I would definitely say look at just getting the Solarc separate and the batteries separate.
Sure.
But yes, you can definitely, you can even, if it's an indoor solution, you could not even have the batteries in a cabinet. You could just add batteries to the wall and connect it all together.
Great. I was under the impression that the new battery edition is sort of at any time you want within the warranty of your original bank. But one of our attendees had a question: is there a 3-year time period maximum
for adding new batteries?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my general rule of thumb,
okay.
to be honest. There is really no limit. Keep in mind the warranty does revert back, like you said, to the original battery bank.
Sure.
So if it was installed 5 years ago, that's the warranty. Though the reason I say 3 years is genuinely, I think that you're going to see a lot of kind of degradation in the first bank, and that'll take down the second bank at not a 3-year mark, but definitely like 10 years in, you might see a little bit of loss. And then, 15 years down the road, now you're seeing even more loss. So if they can try to stick within that 3-year window, it's kind of nice. You're not going to end up with, I guess, it's kind of like solar panels. You add in a new solar panel and it goes path of, the lowest common denominator takes the cake.
Right. No, that makes a lot of sense. And I imagine that because these batteries are just DC powered, that the 50 hertz or 230 volts for European or other types of grids doesn't really affect the performance, correct?
Yep, not a problem at all. And that could be, anything from 3-phase or different types of hertz signals in different countries. The batteries are just worried about their own DC side of things, not the AC.
Makes a lot of sense. Do you have any information on battery, like cable length, for if you're adding batteries to a cabinet?
Good question. It's kind of tricky. So it depends on, every case is a little different. So if you are using the bus bars that are internal in our cabinets, you really are just looking at maybe a little bit of rewiring as far as the main connection goes with cables. Now, if you're using just cabling from each battery, same length, same size, very easy.
Great. I know that the closed loop communications for Solarc makes everything pretty simple, but what is the BMS for the open loop? Is it CAN bus or RS485?
Yeah, so CAN bus right now is the protocol, though the great part about our BMS is it actually has the ability to add on different types of communications. So we're not just limited to CAN bus. We'll have Modbus and all those different. Actually, just to be clear, one of the next one, I believe, and I'm not speaking too soon, hopefully, I think is going to be on the list of inverter that are compatible is probably the Sunny Island, excuse me.
Okay.
As that requires communications to work properly. So again, we can always add on different types of communications as we go.
Sure, that's really helpful to know. I know that the AmpliPHI kind of has the ability to protect themselves with extreme temperatures. Does the Phi have any sort of safeguarding in that regard?
So the Phi actually does not have an internal thermostat. So it is definitely on the customer at that point to keep an eye on that level. It will not disconnect in extreme lows or extreme highs.
Sure. I'm just working on typing these.
No worries.
Yeah. Great. Can you order an extra PCB for the BMS if you need to, a spare?
Definitely not.
Okay.
You'd want to send the battery back to us to get
Okay.
it if you need a different PCB board in. But I can say the AmpliPHI's BMS is very strong, and the board
Great.
has been upgraded a lot
Great.
in all of our batteries.
Great. So I'm seeing a few questions. Can this be used with N-phase systems? So if we want to look at AC coupling, an N-phase microinverter system absolutely can incorporate either of these. Like the good thing about Solarc and Schneider is that any grid tie system can be added. But then if you're also looking at a brand new installation, you don't need to have microinverters to accomplish these installations. I guess this would be an interesting segue, Troy, into anything about rapid shutdown compliance. I don't know if you guys have any information that is like for Schneider specifically or Solarc.
Yeah, I hate rapid shutdown because
Yeah, I'm sure.
always different.
Yeah.
That being said, there's different ways to look at it. If let's say just your inspector wants a panel level shutdown, adding an access in AC coupled there has not changed your rapid shutdown compliance.
Okay.
The micro inverters, the string inverters, that's still RS compliant. Now, battery level is definitely a thing that's coming up more and more. If you're looking at battery level, the Solar's actually great. It has that ability built in. All you need is a button, and boom, you can actually turn off the entire system, including the PV. Now, DC coupled is the last thing I'll talk about. DC coupled, if you're in a DC coupled area that requires either A, module level shutdown, or B, battery level shutdown, or both, you probably want to start looking at things like the Tygos or the Midnights, these panel level shutdowns on a DC coupled system, because you don't have that granular shutdown like you might have with an AC coupled system. But again, if you're just adding in, which a lot of the time people are just adding in an access to an already existing grid tied array, and your inspector is not calling for battery level shutdown, which a lot are not yet, you're good to go. You don't even have to change anything.
Great. I think this is a great question to kind of wrap things up at the end is for an end of life battery, is there a recycling or is there a sending it back to SimpliPhi recycling type solution?
Good question. We're really kind of working on that actually now, really trying to figure out where, what's the best way to do this without shipping, hopefully back to us. We can always, I've seen a lot of batteries come back to us and we have recycled, but we are looking at, mapping out. Actually, I would definitely say check out, we're going to have some more presentations coming up in the next year where we're going to be talking a lot about recycling. So, second life battery is still a thing people talk about. It's a little far and from just yet.
Sure.
But we definitely can always help accommodate recycling. Hopefully with a local recycler, but
sure.
If we get them back, we can.
Great.
Awesome. I think that looks to be, just about the majority of questions. I know we were going to just wrap up. I did want to say, if you do have any questions beyond that either didn't get answered or beyond what you might have thought about until after the presentation, we'll send out a follow-up email with the recording and contact info here, as well as whatever other contact info we add in. So you'll be able to reach back out with questions to either SimpliPhi or Soligent. If you have anything with purchasing, definitely reach out to Soligent, not to us.
Yeah, and my email is right here. Also, feel free to email marketing@soligent.net for more questions related to this webinar. We're really happy to kind of get anybody set up with an account manager so that we can help support all of your projects.
Awesome. Well, I just want to give a big thanks to Soligent, to Madeline, to jumping on, as well as everyone else for hopping on.
Thanks, Troy. We really appreciate the relationship with SimpliPhi and are excited for everything that you guys have in store.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone.
Bye.